Good afternoon and welcome. I'm delighted to have you here today, and I thank you for joining this session. My name is Nader Shamlu, and I'm a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council for the Empower Me program or initiative. I am entirely honored today to facilitate this very important conversation that we will be having with absolutely distinguished panelists that have passed the WIN Roadshow process and are here with us today for the last, they have been here for the last week, and we are here today to wrap up this program. We will demonstrate their exceptional leadership and their innovative approaches in the fields of their particular initiatives and entrepreneurship, excuse me. As you all know, in many countries, including in Saudi Arabia and also in the United States, it can be very challenging to become an entrepreneur, and it's a very tough and uphill road for most people, particularly if you're a woman, and that kind of goes for every country. And when you talk to any women entrepreneurs from everywhere, they will say that they found the road to be much more difficult than they had initially thought about. And so today we are here to explore some of the unique challenges that our distinguished panel members have experienced, and also we would like to hear from them how they would like to proceed in the future, and also what advice and suggestions they may have for other women entrepreneurs, both in Saudi Arabia as well as elsewhere. I'm excited to hear from our panelists, and I do, for the sake of time, I will not spend much time on reading their bios, but let them explain to all of us about the incredible initiatives they have started. So I'm here. Please join me in welcoming our top finalists and our winners. I will sort of like maybe go from that side to here. It is first Rawan Al-Khalboush. Then we have Renat Al-Jeffrey. We have then Sarah Bin Laden and Mace Alauddin, and to my left is Sumaya Al-Zamil. I will thank you very much for being here, and congratulations on the program that you have just finished, and of course the experience that you have gained. We are very anxious to hear about it and to hear about your journey. So to begin with, could you please tell us a little bit about your background and also your business, as well as what the motivation that you had to start this business rather than to take perhaps a more secure and simpler road of being hired or working in a job, rather than starting your company and your initiative.
So I'm a neuroscientist by training and a regenerative scientist. I work on stem cell applications in engineering. In my training, I worked on brain cancer. The reality is we are a society that's living in a world where we're dying of chronic diseases, of just pure wear and tear, which comes with an aging lifespan, an increasing lifespan. So what we need now is essentially your body's own raw material, which are stem cells, to repair, regenerate, replace something that has undergone permanent damage. So in my work, I founded AppPoint Therapeutics, which essentially we have a proprietary technology and device that you place it at the point of care in the OR, and we're able to extract your own stem cells from your own body through a liposuction procedure within hours. And we essentially read out the components of how your stem cells behave, what they're capable of, and what you need for your own medical needs, which the future of healthcare is becoming increasingly reliant on stem cell research. And I think it's right now is as good as time as any to show the world, as Saudi scientists, that we are not only prepared to leverage the biotech community universally, but really to harmonize with the global scientific community as well.
Thank you very much. Renat, if you would like to explain about your initiative.
For sure. So I am Renat, the founder of Adastra. So basically at Adastra, we send therapists to people's houses. We mainly serve families that have kids with special needs. So we started Adastra because I have a child with special needs. And he was diagnosed with severe autism at the age of 2. And we really struggled to be able to find therapeutic services for him. So so our only way was starting a company. And so basically we started Adastra because we really needed to find high quality home-based therapeutic services for our son. So, and then right now, so we started about 2 years ago. Right now we are operating in more than 59 different cities and towns and even areas where education and therapeutic services were not reachable. We are enabling thousands of therapeutic sessions each month. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the CTO of a company called Quantums. And what we do is we are trying to become or actually we're working on becoming the ad tech infrastructure in the Middle East. And what Amazon and Google and Facebook all have in common is being very profitable from ad technology. And what is to say that we can't actually create something similar to that in the Middle East? And that's actually the goal. We're trying to help e-commerce companies and food applications and different applications to harness and cater to their existing customer base by giving them the infrastructure for them to focus on what they care about so that we can help them actually generate a secondary revenue stream. And that's what we do at Quantum.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maisa Alauddin, and I'm the founder of the Giveaway Co., which is a luxury customized giveaway company. And we create solutions for people who are looking for giveaways for their events, whether they're personal, whether they're corporate. We provide them with different items with luxury customized packaging and cater to their needs. We make it easier for them to find these items and to meet everything they're looking for. We're now also working on a line that incorporates gift items that women in different rural areas have worked on, but that don't meet our luxurious standards. But now we are working on teaching them how to meet those standards so that we can incorporate them within our line and include more people within our business. And we felt that it's a nice way to fill in the gap because when I started this business 8 years ago, the market actually did not have this. And it came out of a need because people were importing giveaways in the region from outside. So we wanted to facilitate that.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sumaya Zamil, the co-founder and CEO of Nuqta. In Nuqta, actually, we built an innovative platform to help the small and medium businesses, especially restaurants and cafe, to understand their customers so they can actually maintain them. We do that in multiple ways. We help them build their loyalty solution, whether it's point system, stamp system, they can do it through us. Secondly, we help them build the digital menu, the online ordering system, and all of that. And finally, they have all the analysis of their customer. By leveraging that, they can actually understand their customer, have more insight, and finally increase their revenue. And that's about it.
Well, thank you very much for explaining the initiatives. I think it was Renat who also said something about why and how she came to start that business. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit about the journey why did you get to the point of starting the business of, the Nuqta, for instance, or so if you could maybe also give us a little bit of a background about what made you start this business rather than something else,
Definitely.
For instance, yeah.
First of all, I'm a computer scientist by background. I worked in different companies. I worked for Johns Hopkins Aramco as an IT analyst. Then I worked in one of the Vision 2030 program, and all of them were amazing. But also in F&B, the food and beverage, it was an exciting time to start and find the opportunity there, especially in Saudi Arabia. It's actually booming right now. So we realized that a lot of local businesses start to open the last 5 years, but within time, they don't understand their customers. So we thought, me and my co-founders, we have the right skills to actually understand, to give them what they really need. They don't have the resources, and we have that knowledge, so we can collaborate with each other to sustain their businesses. That's why.
So before the giveaway was born, I had a retail shop with my aunt, and we sold furniture and home accessories. And basically, a client walked in one day and asked if we had 100 of a specific gift item. And we said, no, we're a boutique. We only carry 4. She's like, could you make it possible? I have a baby shower. I really need 100. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say no. So I ordered those 100 for her. And then I realized, after I looked into it, that there aren't any companies that do that within the region. So that's when I created a logo, created a brand, got on Instagram, and started my business, and that's how it was born. We started taking on orders, and it went through word of mouth, and then went on Instagram and regionally.
Went
So that's
viral.
where it started. Yes.
Yes.
So my story is more on the of the lines of e-commerce. So I've been into startup and developing e-commerce back in 2012 when web development was just picking up. And I was actually a web developer, and that's how I got into the startup world. And I was developing different e-commerce platforms for other people. And I realized that I have a knack for business development as well, and that was something that I really enjoyed to do. And so I went on to do my master's, and I did an MBA and started my own e-commerce platform, which led me to think, all right, I think I'm spending my entire life in the ecosystem along the lines of e-commerce. And that's where we pivoted and went into Quantum, which is basically leveraging the distribution channels of e-commerce to actually be able to generate a secondary income for them as well, to utilize their existing customer base, and to even have that impactful gain for them to be their arm and to help support and impact all the customers that they actually have. I think it's yours.
So you don't want to go into... So I trained as a scientist. I started working on breast cancer originally, and then I started my training at Hopkins into Mayo Clinic, and my thesis gained an IND for a phase 01 clinical trial I'm a co-investigator on for brain cancer using stem cells. The reality is, and I think that was the aha moment essentially, is really we have a very limited time. It's not just for patients, but really for treatment. The patient comes in, the cavity is, the resection is, or the tumor is resected, but there's an opportune window of time while the patient is at bedside. We can treat this patient, because these are things that we don't necessarily pick up on MRI until it's too late when the cancer comes back. Even trauma. People get in car accidents, let's say. They have 3 hours before their entire brain goes into hypoxia and essentially dies out. So we have a very limited time frame to treat before permanent damage. So my reasoning behind why I wanted to do what I wanted to do is essentially move away from large volume manufacturing facilities to have to wait 14 days, to have skilled personnel and scientists and technicians. Can we move away from all of that, and can we have treat it when you need it, when the patient comes in and it's very necessary? Can we use the patient's own body to heal itself? And we have the capacity to do that. We have the science to do that. Now we have the technology and AI machine learning algorithms to do it quickly and effectively and down to the micro or nanoliter. So the precision is very high. So I think we're ready to go. And that was, for me, the impetus behind it is we, on the one end, we want to say immortality as far as stem cell applications, and we want to live forever. And that's sort of the unspoken truth with regenerative medicine is kind of you want to prolong life until it's almost forever. But as dreamy as that is, the reality is, can we just replenish something that's dying out over time and over aging? And that was my reasoning for it.
So you run into, in your everyday life, or in your family circumstances, or in your, let's say, friends' circumstances, or you run into an idea, you run into something that you say, well, maybe there is a market for that, maybe there is a need for this. So how did you take the next step? How did you navigate, from having an idea to starting a business and making it, run, or at least making it a success? And what challenges did you face? First of all, I would like to know what challenges you faced as entrepreneurs. And the second level, I would like to also ask you afterwards, or maybe even if you want to include it in your answers, the challenges that you faced as a woman in that process. So I will maybe start with you, since you're closer to me. Yeah.
Okay, definitely. So the challenges.
So you found, this is the food and beverage industry is booming in Saudi Arabia, and this is what I can do. And so what was the next step?
Okay, so we always say just start.
Yes.
So the challenge is to actually start, then to continue. That's even harder than just starting out.
Yeah.
Because you will face a lot of challenges through the way, whether through hiring your team or actually starting your idea or building your MVP. So in each phases, you will face different challenges. We started the first issue when we actually built the solution without asking a lot of questions to our customers, and that was a huge lesson. We learned it the hard way, that we don't need to actually think of what the customer wants. We need to actually go and ask them and observe their daily life, and that's the main thing. So the main challenge is to actually be close to the customer instead of assuming what they really want.
So how did you do that? For instance, you went to, when you went to dinners or lunches or whatever, you asked the customers. How did you approach that?
It's two-way. You ask and you observe. So at the beginning, we stayed long times in coffee shops and for hours to see the customer behavior. How do they react? Will they accept actually giving their number to get points? What do they prefer? Do they prefer convenient, or do they prefer to get something for free? So it's all about observing that, because sometimes even if you ask a question, you will not get the right answer. They will give you the answer that you want to hear. So you need to see their behavior in order to understand what they do in their daily life. So that's how.
And was it difficult to register your company and to, was that process very difficult?
I think now in Saudi Arabia, they make it really easy. You can start your business in 180 seconds. So there are a lot of government initiatives to make it easy to everyone to start their business and to support them. Whether the incentives can be grants and can be actually mentorship. So we faced a couple of issues through the way, definitely, but from starting the business, it is actually, they make it easy as much as possible, and they provide the support that you need, whether it's lawyer, whether it's actually money and everything. So I think right now it's the time to start the business, as the initiatives are already there. You can see the Vision 2030 initiatives, and you can
So that vision had a lot to do with,
Exactly.
just setting out that vision in the future gave you a lot of wind in your sails,
Exactly.
essentially.
Maybe because I worked there, so I am also close to what initiatives are out there, and that actually helped.
Yeah. Now, I will ask you one more question before moving to the next person. Families can be a great support, but families can also sometimes be, a hindrance. In other words, you had a very nice job, I'm sure, and you had a, great salary, career opportunities. Didn't your family come and say, it's much easier to have a job rather than to start your business? How did you overcome that part or did your family ask you this?
Actually, my family is the biggest supporter, so I'm not the right person.
No, but others could have probably,
maybe.
Like, why give up a job and go
Exactly.
into entrepreneurship when you can have a great career in front of you?
But in my case, my parents were advisor more than actually forcing anything. So if I have a question or any concern, they will let me know what their opinion are, but they are 100% with me with any decision that I make. So in my case, I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this question.
Maybe others have faced this thing. It's like, take the easy way out. But anyway, just again, these are some of the issues that I think our viewers would benefit from, how you came.
I think every family just wants safety and security for their children, ultimately.
And particularly for their daughters.
Right,
probably.
particularly for their daughters or sons or just children at large. I think it's not unreasonable to assume that every family would say, go and have something secure because entrepreneurship is so risky sometimes. But I think we've all been fortunate enough where and I think I've even speaking to a lot of women in Saudi, a lot of us have been fortunate enough to have the support of our families that are pushing. They are the visionaries, and I think they're the ones that sort of created this generation. And I think that's a great question that you asked so that we can change the narrative and say that we do have a backing behind us that is familial and that is social and obviously governmental. And so I think Saudi, at the rate at the pace that it's changing, it's now time to show that we recognize 50 years ago this was the case. We recognize women's rights even today in the Western world is still the case. But we also have to recognize that the change has been so revolutionary and so grand that it's important to also portray that probably wouldn't have been where we are today had it not been for the country to back us, for our families to envision the way we do, and to have the support system. And I think that's important for all the young ladies that are listening today. Everyone's behind you, including us and including, I think, the entire world at this point.
So again, following up with the other half of the question that I had asked her, so you decided to go on your own and to strike it out on your own. Your family was supportive, and of course, as I understand, the procedures for setting up a business was made easy also. So that does play a role in your decision of starting your own business. Would you have done it because in many of the countries the procedures are like lengthy and multiple and costly in many cases? Would you have done it even if it hadn't been as easy to register a company or start a company?
I do want to say that there may have been, and that's just sort of tangential, there are probably girls today that don't have the luxury that we have, maybe potentially with the backing of our families, and that's either here in the US or in wherever in the world. I definitely think it's a personal thing, but I think if you have the right passion for it, you really could be unstoppable, and I think that goes for man, woman, anyone really. Would it have been easier? I think in our case, I'll let the ladies speak because they're the ones that have a more infiltration into Saudi, so maybe that's something that they can pick up on. But I think ultimately, I'm sure there are difficulties in life, but that's part of the game.
Any other views?
Yeah, I was lucky enough because in retail, sometimes you have the luxury to start out from home. So that's exactly what I did. I found this need, and I realized I didn't want to invest so much money that I didn't have. I had the little bit of savings that I had, and my parents helped me a bit. And I was able to buy some products and stock them, but I started out from home at the beginning, just so I validate my business idea and I don't incur losses. So that could be an option for people that are looking for retail. Just start out small, test the waters. And I feel like that gave me the confidence to then register, and I was sure that my idea is a good one and not to put so much time and money and go through the registration and the hassles of paying rent and stuff like that before you're actually sure of that. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm lucky because it's retail. In other industries, that's not really an option.
Must be, yeah.
So yeah.
What about you, Sarah?
Honestly, I'll continue on that point. So I agree with you 100%. I think the most important thing for anyone to start is actually to start small. Like, you can do a small version of what you envision this, something called an MVP, minimum viable product, whether it's in retail, whether it's in tech, whether it's in, I don't know how much you can do that in biotech, honestly, that's your domain. But you can try to make as small as possible to test the market with it. And then the beauty of it is if that doesn't work, that doesn't mean you stop and just go work in corporate. That's not what I'm saying. It's saying basically that didn't work. but what else? What did I learn from it, and what can I do differently? And I think that type of knowledge and that kind of understanding is what we've learned from experience, and what we've heard from different people in the industry, whether it's mentors, whether it's our own support group, whether it's people that we know, whether it's from each other. And I think that's the key to this. Challenges, we have so many. I know we are talking and saying, oh, it's amazing, it's beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
Of course it is, but we haven't reached where we are without a few slaps on the way of facing us from life. That's the reality of it. But it's like just being able to continue waking up every day and being like, I'm going to make it today. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do X today, and then just keep going at it. I think that's what we're all hoping to hopefully achieve and reach a bigger status of what we are actually.
Renat, they're talking about a different world than yours, because you had not only the market out there, but also the challenge at home. I have a nephew who has also autism, and I understand very much the difficulty of dealing with special needs children, and being very close to your heart. You had to invent everything from new, and certainly in a field that is still evolving. Tell us how you navigated that part. It's a tremendous service that you're providing for the country, as well as for other families that are going through that terrible, that difficult time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So of course I agree with Sarah and Mais that you really need to start small, and you really need to start with an MVP. So yeah, when we first started, we had a very big ambition. We wanted to serve all of the different kids with special needs, regardless where they live or their family's economical status. But with Adastra, when we first started, we started as a marketplace. So we just wanted to connect therapists with families that have kids with special needs. But then we found out that we really need to be more involved in training, for example, supervision. So right now we ask each therapist to submit a very detailed after-session report after each therapeutic session. So we make sure that we are delivering high-quality home-based therapeutic services. And yeah. So that's,
I mean, knowing this field a little bit, again, because of my own, my nephew's case, it's not that easy to find that sort of that expertise here in the United States, which is probably cutting edge. Did you have how did you find therapists that would meet your standards or the needs of the special? That must have been a very big challenge.
Yeah,
because in your case, you could go. I mean, in let's say in Sarah's case or somebody else, you could go, or Mace's case, you could go to the producer and say, make 100 of these. But in your case, it's probably much more challenging to find the right expertise.
so right now we take them, train them, then supervise them.
I see.
And have a very clear process, like we lay a very clear process for them so they can follow, and we make sure that we are delivering a high quality therapeutic services.
I see.
If I can jump in here,
Yes.
how many therapists do you currently have on your platform?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah.
And how long have you started?
We started about 2 years ago.
Thousands.
So-
That's,
so the
that's an
thing is,
incredible.
She created a process, and it's not
Yeah.
only about the education, because we do have educated people in the industry and in Saudi who are in these very special needs care, but it's the fact that she was able to connect them with the people who needed them and in the areas that needed them with the different opportunities. Can you tell them more about the different the village issue with the people and the town that used to travel?
Yeah, so basically we had one family that needed to travel for about 3 hours and then return back for 3 hours just to get therapy for their son. And we found out that they were going into the center to meet with a therapist that was their neighbor. So basically,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So right now, no one will have to travel, and the neighbor will just go to the family
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
start the
And since you're I'm sure that this is all in Arabic, and there are 400 million Arabic speakers around the world, and I'm sure that you could perhaps replicate this for other countries, for other GCC countries, I mean, it's probably a technology or a process that you have developed that could be replicated, because this is a growing field. I mean, this is a growing need, particularly autism and other special needs, and that would be something very useful for everyone now that you have gone through this.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, none of you said anything about the difficulties that you encountered
I'll say it.
As women.
As women.
Yeah. Or did you? Maybe you didn't. Maybe.
Oh no, I was going to say
Yeah.
the difficulties as far as Saudi currently, as far as, let's say, sector in like entrepreneurship. This is, I think, a great platform maybe for a call for action as far as the biotech community. I know there's a lot of push. I'd love for the NIH, the Saudi NIH or Saudi Ministry of Health to really support their Saudi scientists and Saudi innovators and physicians. As a Saudi woman or as a Saudi scientist, I would have loved to bring my own research that I did here back to my own country so that my own or Saudi citizens could benefit from my findings, and also have Saudi be on the platform and a formidable member on the table of biotech. So I would love to see a future, and I think that's where we're going towards, is a future of full support as far as biotech goes. And I hope this will only be an opening path towards many more support to Saudi scientists. As far as being a woman, I think we would be naive to say that there is no challenges.
I think to talk more about the female entrepreneurship, I think the challenge is a global thing. We all face issues as a female, not as Saudi. So if we talk about female, whether I pitch to VC here or in Saudi, I'll face the same issue. Female always have to show their tractions. They have to show that they are really credible. Men usually, maybe they only show the potential and that works. So for us, we need to work harder to build the full ecosystem. It's not just about us, the entrepreneur. It's about the investors. It's about more female employees. So we need to think of it as a full ecosystem. So I can speak to a female investor who understands the journey that I went through. This way, we will fix the issue of investment, of any other issue, of actually finding female employees, because the female is everywhere, and they are really credible, and they are really knowledgeable. So I think we need to fix it as a global issue, and we need to put all the effort to work toward that, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could you be maybe a little bit more specific about what you encountered? I mean, both of you as well as the rest of you, what you encountered in terms of questions, or in terms of, no, you can't do it, or, you're a woman, or something like that, that would sort of like, that left you with the impression that you faced more hurdles as a woman entrepreneur in your field than, let's say, a male entrepreneur. Because your field is a very specific one. I mean, this is not an easy field anywhere in the world. But I mean, as is everybody else's. But women scientists in this country have also lots of, they can write books about how they have been, let's say, approached.
And the bias.
Yes.
So the irony behind my story is that it happened in the United States.
I see. So that's
from U.S.-based scientists. So as Sumaya said, this is a serious global issue that we're all fighting, whether it's in the U.S. or in Saudi. In Saudi, I think, the avenue is not fully developed for biotech. I can't wait to see it happen. But as you said, in our community, in the sector as biotech or scientists, it is much harder to penetrate as a female in general. But yeah.
I have to say, in retail, luckily enough, I have the opposite issue. People come more often because I'm a woman, and they seek my taste, the details in items. So sometimes it works to your advantage. I know we're trying to see how it doesn't, but a lot of the time,
but it could be an
it actually
advantage,
works to your
yes.
advantage. So there are a lot of, I would say, aesthetic areas where it helps to be that woman, and it helps to have that creative side. And many men and women will seek that detail and attention, and it's a better field to be in. As a woman, you have less obstacles for sure. And I'm sure the women in tech will disagree.
I was just gonna talk about
We
that.
have the opposite issue.
It's not that it's that big of an issue as much as people get surprised whenever I say, "Oh, I'm the CTO," and you're like, "You're the what?" "I'm the CTO of technology." "You do tech? You're female?" I'm like, "Yes. Why do I have to keep explaining that? This is a normal thing. I can be a woman in tech." And the fact is, because when you look at the representation and the other people who are doing similar roles to me, I can't really find as many. And then that means that, all right, if I want to talk to someone about issues similar to what I'm going through, I can only speak to my other male counterparts just because those are the people who are in front of me and around me. And I think that was one of the challenges. And I think moving forward, I went into a program in Saudi for IMD, which was run by the CICT, which is one of our ministries of communication, for ladies only. And I was with 40 women, all in tech, and I was just like, where have you guys been all my life? And it's just that with this huge country, you know, we don't really know who our neighbor is, who the next door person is. We're just so busy with living day to day that we usually forget to network. And I think just knowing that there are other peoples out there, there are other people doing similar things to you, just reach out to them and ask and find that network and grow it will help you overcome those challenges that you're going through.
But that's actually a good point in regards to being surprised, because that's what we need to change. It's always the expectation that the CEO is a male, the CTO is a male.
Yeah.
So when you present something, they say, oh, you're actually building something good, as if that was not the expectation.
Exactly.
And this is really difficult because it puts a lot of effort to show the opposite of that. So the expectation is really that, at least if you're a woman, you can be developer, but the expectation is not reaching the CTO or the co-founder level. And if that expectation is gone, it will be much easier for everyone, from both sides, the female and male.
I'd like to add on to that. There is a surprise. There's, they're taken back by, oh, you're a CTO, you're a female, and you're so essentially an expert in tech. There is that confirmation bias because of that surprise. You kind of want to make sure that you are confirmed by your original perception. So you try to find any inaccuracy or fallacies in an expert essentially that happens to be a woman. So you scrutinize her a little bit more as a woman, and that happens a lot more. So maybe, as Sumaya said, changing the narrative. Don't be surprised. We're just as good, sometimes
Better.
even better. But we're just as good. We have the same training. In fact, we've gone through a little bit of, or I guess more hurdles because of these surprises that we have to maneuver and navigate and be innovative and be, and find more ways to continue to surprise everyone. But yeah, I think changing the narrative is very important, because as long as you're not surprised, you don't have to continue to confirm, or you wanting to be right, so that you wouldn't extra scrutinize essentially an expert, or let's say a unicorn in the future, in the making.
Renata, as a mother, I guess you had the advantage of shutting everybody up who said that women cannot do it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I have been taught since I was very young that women have equal opportunities as men.
Yeah.
So basically, I had the privilege of exploring all of the different opportunities. For example, I went to college, I studied electrical and computer engineering, I was in tech for a long time, and then I started my own company, and I have never thought that I might be at a disadvantage because I am a woman. So basically, if I see that there is an opportunity, I will just go, knock the door, and try to explore the opportunity, and the worst thing that would happen to me, they will say no. And then I will just shut that door and open another one.
That's great.
Actually, and we can confirm that.
That's a great, it's a great saying right now. As you were speaking, two things came to my mind. One is that in the West, there is a lot of effort to bring women into the STEM fields. And I think all of you have one way or the other sort of like gone through that field or those fields. Whereas in the Middle East, and particularly in most Arab countries, there is a lot of research about this, that women go into STEM fields. Actually, the STEM fields are very female dominated in many of our in our region, in our countries. The second point that I wanted to make is with respect to what you were saying, that you faced the discrimination here, not in Saudi Arabia, more about woman being a woman scientist. And that reminds me that years ago I met another woman scientist from Saudi Arabia, and her point was that whenever she went to present her ideas or research, people would say, oh, in Saudi Arabia, do women drive? And I mean, the number of times that this sort of comes, isn't it? I mean, that's exactly. And she said it was such a frustrating thing for her to say, no, I'm a woman scientist. I'm doing the research. I'm doing the. I mean, I'm sure that you know her, but anyway, I just wanted to say that story stuck with me to a great extent. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. It's always like, do you drive? And it's like, yeah. we do. We do. Do you have, like they're asking some of these rudimentary questions that maybe would have made sense in 1925. I don't know, but not now. We do drive. We almost fly, in fact. We've been Ghostbusters. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you guys watched that movie. But yes, we're beyond what the conception is.
Yeah. Now, some of you mentioned money or resources. And I think you mentioned that, when women are asked, you have to essentially justify more your business idea than others. And of course, again, I'm a researcher, so I have to, of course, brag about research, not just that I did, but the research that I read. And there are very, very robust studies that show that when women go to pitch their businesses, investors usually ask women about the downside of the business. So in other words, they want to see, what are you doing in order not to fail? Whereas when men go to pitch their businesses, they always talk about the upside. So in other words, they're much more optimistic about the business making it or being very profitable when a man presents it. Have you faced that? Have you encountered that when you were asking for money and when you were asking for investors to come into your business?
Actually, one of the current VC told me that, thank you for sending all this information because we've never asked for it, so thank you for sending that. What I realize is I send that information because other VCs ask about all of this information in the data room. And she told me that we don't really ask anyone for this information. Then I realized that they ask more than what they need to, just because we're the founders. Yeah. So that was actually shocking moment for me because I didn't know that this is not the standard. I was sending the information based on the default. Yeah. Then the default was different, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Anybody else?
So my co-founder is a male, and I think that's been working for and against us at the same time. So I haven't faced a lot of many of these issues, but usually the meetings are led by me a lot of the times because our company and our entire product is tech focused, and my co-founder is a marketing business guy. So he would open up the conversation and he'd be like, Sarah, I memorized up until here. It's your turn now to take over the lead. And so we have this nice dynamic, and for us, I think that just showcases that we trust each other on a certain level, and I think that's the key here is to make sure that we are all equal in terms of what we do for ourselves. Like if you pride yourself on your education and what you work hard for and what you can achieve, male or female, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're trying to push for what you really believe in, I think that's key to everything.
Mm-hmm. And what about the rest of you?
I didn't raise money. I
Oh, you didn't raise it?
Yeah. So I made money, injected it, and kept that going. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously another way to finance.
And part of the reason was that you wanted to be extra conservative, or you just felt that
grew organically.
you're not going to get...
No, it grew organically.
She didn't need it.
I started off, like I said, small in my home. My margin was high enough to cover the expenses and then purchasing new products. And then I re-injected it in the business. And then I kept re-injecting slowly and organically, and that's how I was able to scale and moved from my home to a warehouse, then added staff, then now we're a team of almost 12 and in a 2-story warehouse. And that happened organically and safely and with time and without injecting more money. It happened with generating sales and putting it back into the company. So I didn't have to face any of those issues.
How about you? And
Well, for me, so basically, we don't accept investors unless they are very passionate and very, if they really believe in our mission. So basically, if they really believe in our product and the mission, and they can see the traction, and they can see everything we have done so far, then I don't think past this point they are going to differentiate in between a man or a woman. And I don't like to think about it this way. So usually I don't like to put myself at a disadvantage because I am a woman. So basically, I really believe that I can do whatever I want, and I really believe that I can get all of the different contracts in the world that is relevant to my startup, even if I'm a woman. So it wouldn't really matter.
I think I would, that's the ideal scenario. I think there are cases, obviously, that there is a prejudice against women, no matter where you are in the world, but there is that aspect. There's a reason, and I'm not sure about the technical percentage, but was it 2.7% of VCs support female-led founders, yet metadata there was a study with Harvard Business. It was a journal where they did 20,000 companies that were publicly traded that were led either by or founded by a female, or a female was on the executive board, and they've consistently been shown to financially, the outcome financially is much more successful. Women are much more risk averse. They're innovative. They're curious. They're way more inclusive. Consistently, the data shows that when a woman is leading the company or a corporate world, it is much more likely to just do better. And that's maybe because...
it's the catalyst. The catalyst, the company did a lot of these very groundbreaking, pioneering research on this front that, women-owned businesses are much more profitable over the long run, as well as that's
exactly.
The case.
As far as, so we've been fortunate enough to have an investor. And we've said no, basically what Rinad mentioned is that you do want someone that is passionate, but also we wanted to wait until our provisional patent was submitted, so we're good to go now. But in general, there was a situation where I was speaking or pitching to a publicly traded hospital in Saudi, and I had a lawyer on my left and my brother was with me on the right. And the person the group that I was speaking to, they directed all questions to my brother and the lawyer, but not me. And I think that was one of the more frustrating experiences.
This was here?
This was in Saudi.
Oh, that was in
Saudi.
Okay.
So the questions were directed towards the other two. And I, at one moment, I obviously was sitting back and thought, okay, go ahead. Let's see how far this goes, because I wanted them to realize that when, you have to bring in the founder to talk about the technology, especially if it's technical. But yeah, so that's something I've realized. But I think maybe that particular person came from a different generation, and that was essentially why.
Yeah, but but what you're raising is a generic problem around the world. I mean, some years ago when I was at the World Bank and I organized a conference for women entrepreneurs, I had someone who had come from the Latvia or one of those Nordic countries. And she was saying that, wherever she went, and, we would imagine that the culture, the perspectives there are very different. She says wherever she went, everybody would say, well, why does a woman need so much money? Or why does a woman need so much?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like everybody thinks that women can do things very small and, very economically, they don't need as much. So, but that seems to be a pervasive kind of mentality around the world, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why women only get so little of the venture capital firm funding, which brings me to my next question. I was reading that, particularly in the Middle East, I have the numbers somewhere, for 2023 or in 2020, the Boston Consulting Group, which does a lot of these research, estimated that in Saudi Arabia, the women assets that belonged to women, in other words, women-owned assets, were about $224 billion. So in other words, women in our region, or in this region, in UAE, it was 103 billion. I don't know about the other countries, but women in our part of the world have a lot of money. Do you think that somehow something needs to be done to bring more women into the VC world? How can we convince more women to be investors in venture capital and promoting other women's businesses? I mean, your ideas. You are in there.
I don't know.
We have an angel, we have a couple of angel investors who were part of our first supporters and everything, but honestly, there are not a lot of female angel investors that we know. And I think the idea is because a lot of females think that they need to have a lot of money to actually be able to put into it. But sometimes it's just literally a small amount in your support and strategy and connection and the help that you can actually offer on ground to these startups. And that's something that, even though I can't offer a lot of money today, I'm able to offer that. If they're willing for that, I would actually do it. And I've already invested in a couple of small startups, and they're doing pretty well already. And that's, I think, the mentality that we're shifting. So a lot of people in Saudi, there are huge initiatives to get people to go into angel investing. So there's a lot of non-for-profit organizations that are setting up the educational systems and the things for people to understand what angel investing really means and what that includes, because
and are women buying into that, into this? They are. Because I'm thinking that if 700 and, whatever.
We
how
have
much was
high
it?
profile female.
If that amount of billions and billions of dollars that are, that belong to women, even if 1 billion of it were to be directed in this, I mean, can you imagine what it could generate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I also agree with Sarah. It could start small. Maybe we don't need to push for the 1 billion. Maybe whoever can invest, even if it's small amount, and that's what happened in our situation. We had to raise for a bridge round, and 90% of them were female, because I knew them. That's the added factor that we always forget and we always don't have at the beginning. So you don't want to ask your friends or people you work with, but they are the people who really know you and who really want to support. Mm-hmm. So they injected the money that they really can, and for that we were able to raise our seed fund. Without this fund, we would not be able to continue. Mm-hmm. So I'm really grateful for whoever put that fund, even if it's just a small amount. Some of them put around $15,000.
Very, very little.
Exactly,
I mean,
but that was it had a huge impact in our startup. So that's what we need.
Is that sort of funding available to all sectors, or just the very, very, sort of like chic sectors, or the more fashionable ideas, or do you think that people would want to invest in any kind of startup?
I think people would usually invest in the things that they understand.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who are female specifically, they invest in a lot of real estate because that's what they've been investing in all their lives. But if there's a prop tech, property technology that's up and coming, they would be willing to go there because they understand the background of real estate and they would understand a bit about it. But there are a lot of risk takers as well out there. Exactly. We do have a huge capacity today in the kingdom, and there's a huge push towards tech specifically. But if you listen to all the ladies here, all of us have a tech background, whether we utilize it for our sales channels, whether for marketing, whether it's the basis of our system. That's the future. And I think that's what the country is actually banking on.
I think also a lot of people are realizing that you can invest your money in things instead of keeping it in the bank account. So women are looking more at different areas that they can put their money in. So I see that it's becoming common when you have a friend that you believe in their idea, they are coming and saying, would you like me to fund a bit? I have extra money and I'd love to support you. Your idea seems awesome. So I think that dialogue is happening more often, and it never used to. No one just wants to keep their money sitting in the bank anymore.
Sure. Do you think that more needs to be done in order to kind of share that sort of information, kind of awareness raising for women, by women, through women, whatever that, or on public, public media or other venues, to kind of really guide women to really think as venture capital or angel capital as a way of investing their resources? Do you think that is needed, or is this will this kind of take its own course?
I think, so Sada said, yeah, there are some women risk takers. Women are generally, behaviorally, they are risk averse. That's actually part of the reason why they're also successful in the long run, because they don't take unreasonable risks, let's say. But yeah, I think anywhere where we can, again, like you said, or kind of what you're doing now in the Atlantic Council is changing the narrative, exposing who we are in the background, what we've been working on for a very long time, that people are still kind of stuck in the past. So, but yes, putting it out there, maybe encouraging more women to invest, encouraging more people to invest in women, kind of showing them that, as we said earlier, there's no surprise here. Yeah.
So before I move to take some questions from the audience, as well as I think I may have some questions here on virtual questions, I want to maybe address one or two more issues. One is that, okay, you have money, but you need mentorship. You need you need people whom you can call up and say, what's your experience with this? What should I do now? I have two choices. That sort of the mentorship is, of course, very important, and I think that every entrepreneur needs that sort of network of mentorship and so on. So that's perhaps, and then the second question that I would like to ask is that what did this program bring for you? But let's first start with the mentorship and just that network of other support, not just the financial support that you need as an entrepreneur to do well, to have better night's sleep.
Definitely. So I think as we can look at it from as much as you can receive, you can give as well. So we need to be a mentor as well and give our guidance. We are the first cohort here, so we need to support the next cohort and whoever interested in entrepreneurship. So we need to be that voice, basically. That's one aspect. Another aspect is whatever you know, there are a lot of things that you don't know. So you need to search for experts who in that area.
So how do you do that? Let's say you're wondering about expanding your market, and let's say in the environment of Saudi Arabia, how do you do that? How would you find let's say expand your network of advisors or even mentors?
I think it can come in different ways. First of all, it might not start as mentorship, someone that you need an advice from or you need guidance, as you said before. Yeah. So you can just show what you want. If you listen or if you hear that person say something that you think that you can benefit from for the long run, or if someone that you work with and you think that you can benefit from, then ask for it. So basically, you will meet.
So don't be shy.
Exactly.
Just don't be shy to show your.
Yeah, because we meet a lot of people, whether informal setting, informal networking, or just someone that you work with or someone you met through coffee, chat, or anything. So if you think that person can help you, ask for it. It is difficult, but you need to do it.
No, the reason why I'm asking is that because a lot of times women feel that if they ask these questions, then they're going to be sowing some doubt in people, in other people, as look, maybe she doesn't really know, maybe she, and I think that to overcome that hurdle is quite important. And also again, networks are important. Exactly. To know people of various stripes and various, backgrounds. How do you do that? I mean, in your case, you probably need, and also your reputation goes by, by word of mouth through that network. But how do you do that, Renaud? You are in a very tough sector. How would you establish, let's say, a network of mentors, a network of people that you could reach out to?
Okay, so basically, when I first started, every time I faced any problem, I just try to find the person that could help solve that problem, and I would just reach to that person and ask for help. And then like 90% of the time, that person would help. And if not, then I will try to reach for another person. And regarding different partnerships and how we get them, so we basically started with a mission that even if the family cannot afford to get high quality home-based therapeutic services, then we can reach for the different governmental sectors, or we can reach for the different non-profit organizations. So when we reach to these non-profit organizations, we kind of try to see the things in common. For example, if this non-profit organization specify more in helping children with autism, then we will go focusing with the mission of helping the children with autism. If that non-profit organization focus more in helping the children, for example, with Down syndrome, then we will supply them with all of our data about Down syndrome. And yeah, and then from there we will take that partnership forward.
Now, of course, you know, a great deal of reforms have taken place in Saudi Arabia in the last year. I mean, I follow sometimes the World Bank's Women, Business and Law, and the number of changes that have been made in Saudi Arabia in recent years is very encouraging, very, very much so. But nonetheless, you know, laws can change, but people's attitudes or the cultural attitudes take a long time to change. Tell us a little bit about that, because I have a question here from, from a viewer who says that it seems you are very lucky to have this opportunity. But I want to make it clear that despite my high qualifications, I was unable to obtain my rights as a woman, as a Saudi citizen. It is important to pay attention to her rights or to women's rights. There are women who need support, but their voices are not heard. So I guess, you know, you came from good families that were supportive, but let's say, what does a woman do who is not born into the right family?
I was just going to say, that's why I wanted to say that we have been privileged, but that's not to say that there aren't women in Saudi that are like this, that do suffer from exactly what you were speaking of, and exactly what the Atlantic Council is trying to change and trying to sort of begin the dialogue. There are women that are unfortunate, and they have extremely high potential. Most likely, probably the viewer right now that's asking, despite her qualifications, she's not getting the opportunities we're getting, and that's very unfortunate. And there are families like this, and this is one of those things where it's like, well, you know, you have us. Yes, we've been fortunate, but you can reach out to us. We can find ways. I mean, part of our mission also is to have people like you who don't have an opportunity to go ahead and be, you know, leveraged. So despite the scenario, and it's not to say that that's not reality, it is a lot, and probably, you know, in the Middle East and obviously everywhere in the world, I say reach out.
Exactly.
Reach out. If you can't, reach out to someone that has done it, has gone through it, whether they're privileged or not, or have had, opportunities or not. Reach out and see if we can help, or if anyone around you can. It's unfortunate,
And also, to complement that, I said that we're privileged. That's why maybe I can't answer clearly about that. But if you think about it, it goes back again to a full ecosystem. So if you don't have the support of your family, that's why we need the support of government. That's why we need these initiatives. So we need the awareness to reach these family, basically. They need to be aware that the world changed, basically. The investor need to be aware that there are a lot of entrepreneurs, great female entrepreneurs in the world. So the awareness shouldn't come only for the people who can go and find and fight for their opportunities. We need to do the awareness from all levels to people who are sitting in home and watching this, or to anyone who have daughters, who have
schools.
Basically, in school. So we need to build the full ecosystem to not only be the lucky one who have the support of their family, to provide this to everyone, whether they have the support or not. to be able to be an entrepreneur and basically to be whatever they want.
So for me, yes, I always had the full support of my family, but I also believe that you don't get lucky, you create your luck. So I really advise her to try to navigate her way through. And I mean, I really believe if one door gets shut down, you can open 100 other doors and try to explore them all. And I'm really sure that she will be able to find her way through. So everything is changing right now. Everything is moving very fast. And yeah, so just don't put limitations for yourself. Don't say, well, I tried to get this job, but they didn't accept me, and they have high qualifications, so right now I cannot do anything because I am a woman. No, if they don't accept you, then go and apply to 100 other places.
Yeah.
One of them will accept you.
You don't have to knock. You can just
Yeah,
you can
just go.
knock
Just
the door
go.
down.
Yeah,
But
but
kick the door down.
But they'll not put the full responsibility in the person themselves. That's why it's the responsibility of everyone.
Right.
Because sometimes you get
Exactly.
tired of knocking
So this
different
lady
doors.
can call any of you, and you would be able to. So I just want to
help
mention
if
it
we
to
can.
whoever asked this
It's
question.
never
I
easy.
don't know.
It's
It's
never
not.
easy for
Yeah.
anyone. We all had to push our way through it.
Yeah.
But of course, having the community that supports, the family that supports, the friends that support, makes it a lot easier. But it's never easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there might be a misconception, people thinking, oh, maybe they're privileged, it's easier. It's actually not at all, because I feel like you have a lot more to prove when you come, if you are lucky or born in a lucky family. But that's not the case. It's hard, regardless, work hard. And like you said, definitely to reach out to anyone. The government is very helpful now. They want people to reach out to them, be more proactive, but you definitely need your family's support, like in any other community.
Exactly.
And sometimes it can feel very discouraging if someone says no to you. But actually it's not. So if you really want to succeed, you need to learn from your mistakes, and you need to learn why these people said no to you. So I had many people in my life that said no to me. So usually I would just go back to that person and ask for feedback, and then improve next time and get accepted in the next time. Yeah.
You know, of course, you know, what I see in Saudi Arabia, or at least from distance, of course, I have also traveled quite a bit periodically to Saudi Arabia, not very regularly, but what I see is that the more women are being showcased, the more other women come. Of course, the whole issue with role models and so on. And it seems to me that, you know, showing the role models that you are gives confidence to families that are more restrictive, more conservative, more, let's say, I don't know, restrictive toward their daughters, that, okay, maybe my daughter can be like you, maybe my daughter. So in other words, it opens up the space also for other women. But unfortunately, I find that very often, business women don't want to have the limelight. They say, oh, you know, we are doing, I mean, I face this everywhere, from Tunisia to Egypt to elsewhere. I said, no, we don't want to take, you know, we don't want to be on TV. We don't want to be, let's say, in the newspaper. We want to do our business. It's too much. Whereas men, they like very much that publicity. What can we do to actually get women over that, I would say, step? To say, you know, you would be not only good. Not only is it good for you, but it's also good for others. What do you feel?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're seeing here is I think all of us are not 100% comfortable being in front of a camera, and we're trying very hard to make it work.
Well, you're doing a great job. I have to say that. Don't worry about that.
Thank you. But it's because we feel like, yes, we don't like the limelight. We prefer to just do our work because we think that our work can speak for itself. But at the same time, we know that just being here has its own impact. And we all want to be people who have an impact. And we want to make that impact, whether it's for women, whether it's for our children, whether it's for our nephews or our nieces or anyone, to see that if they could do it, we could possibly do it as well. And I think that's what is kind of making this easier. But at the same time, we have to sometimes do the hard stuff. And we should be okay with taking that opportunity and showcasing the good things that we've did. Because at the end of the day, we have worked hard on ourselves. We haven't reached the place where we are today just because we haven't, we've been privileged or something good has happened to us. No, a lot of bad things happened as well. Like not all doors were open, and not all opportunities were a yes. And so that's just life, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like initiatives like this one and it growing, and it's supposed to start in two other countries and then growing more. I think this is very important because it pushed us all out of our comfort zone. None of us were the type that would take photo shoots and interviews. We've all had to face so many insecurities in the last week. And we've had to been private coaches to each other to motivate each other.
Well,
and it's
good.
the reality of the matter. So I think growing and having more programs like this that push you out of your comfort zone and give you the chance to work on yourself is going to benefit everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, I think maybe I thought of stopping my business and thinking of other things maybe 100 of times, but having the right community helps a lot. Because again, it's not all, we face issues every day, whether it's with a client or when you see your cash flow that you need to think about the next fund and all of that. So we face issue in a daily basis and we lose sleep for that. But asking for help, having the right community, the right support would go all the way. Having an initiative like this is really helpful to meet other female entrepreneurs who are going in the same journey.
Realize you're all the
basically.
same.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, in my experience, nothing is as powerful as bringing people together.
Yeah.
You know, they have breakfast together, lunch together, they exchange ideas, and you know that by itself is a very important experience. I just wanted to make maybe 2 points about you know if you fail, you know, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, Hillary Clinton said that it's not that you fall, but the fact that you get up.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very good friend of mine who is a serial entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and whenever he introduces himself, he says, you know, I started so and so many companies, but then I failed at so and so many more, and I was fired at so and so many more. So he's taking the firing and the failing as a sign of, how should I say, a badge of honor on his lapel. He said, look, you know, I know what failure is like, and I know how to avoid it next time, and that's very, very true. And for myself, my experience has been that when I look back at my life, I said, oh my God, thank God some of the things that I was looking for and didn't happen. Thank God it didn't, because something better was waiting for me later on. And I think that's been my motto in life, that, you know, whenever you you've done your best and it didn't work, that means that something else was, you know, your qismat was something else, that you had to go somewhere else. But tell us a little bit about this program. What made you, for those who don't know this program, it's a program that is being done by the Atlantic Council and Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business, together with PepsiCo and with the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh. So tell us a little bit about, and what is your takeaway from here? What are you going to do differently later on, and what did you learn? So I will keep it a big question, and whichever way you want to answer it, go ahead.
Who wants to start?
So I was very fortunate to be part of this program, and I really learned a lot. So let's start with the Georgetown part. I learned many important things. For example, one of them was that different people have different leadership styles. I didn't know that before. I really thought that if a person have a different leadership style, then he might not be competent, because I just didn't know that different leadership styles exist. But right now, I really know how to, how to collaborate or how to work with people that have different styles, because I understand now that it's just a different style, not incompetency. This is one thing. Another thing, people tend to estimate the power of networking. I mean, we have benefited a lot from networking, whether with mentors or with the guests that they have brought during the week, or with, of course, my friends right now. So yeah.
I think I will add on to the last point that Renad was mentioning. The networking part is crucial. It's the most important thing, whether it's for your mental health because you sometimes just need that extra push to put you in the right direction, or it's just to have like-minded people just walk through your problems and move on at the same time. I think the program helped us find each other, it helped us see how we can grow together, and it showed us the different ways that we can actually move on from here. What's next? How do we make a bigger impact? How do we keep going? What are the best places to move on to next, and how can we approach different problems at a certain set? I think that's the main thing.
I think the program showed me that there are so many different aspects to the success of a business and an entrepreneur. You need to learn, you need to study, so that was Georgetown. You need mentors that are much older and wiser than you, that have been through so many things, that come from different fields. Just because it's not the field that you're in doesn't mean that they can't help you. And the peer-to-peer side, which was so valuable, because even though every single one of us came from a different sector, our stories with each other and our experiences and life experiences and hurdles were able to solve someone else's problem just by sharing them and speaking about them together. So it's the power of, like they said, networking and of knowledge and communication. A lot of people think there's a weakness in sharing your weakness, but actually no, you're very strong by sharing it, because others realize, oh my God, I'm not alone. Yes, maybe I can help you. Let me tell you this problem, this solution. And by brainstorming, you're coming up with great new ideas, and you can completely change the angle of your business, and it can go from one way to another. So I think that was very valuable, and we learned that over the year, that a lot of things can change.
Great. I think they said it all. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if Rowan, you have.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of them. I think what I love actually about this program specifically is the crossing of cultural mediums between the Middle East and Saudi specifically, and then here in the West. And that dialogue just, it's one thing to read about it in the newspaper. It's another to represent it with full force, and it's 5 of us. So I think that's what's most important is just kind of is really to emphasize what I guess the Middle East has been saying for a very long time to the West, but also to represent that and to have this collaborative effort. And I think that's part of the strength of the Atlantic Council. It's the representation, but it's also in parallel, it's the collaboration with the U.S. and Georgetown and all the government officials and representatives that we've met. I mean, within 1 week, we've gotten so much done, and so many people we've met, and so many opportunities that I can only imagine this program becoming exponentially larger with a greater impact by the day.
I understand that you're 5 out of something like more than 100 applicants.
Yes.
So congratulations on such an incredible, how should I say, turnout. In the sense that 5% is it's a very small percentage of those who are interested. So what would you go back and sort of like spread the word of others to participate? Would you coach them more? What would you do in order to broaden this, particularly for young women? Because I think that you face a different world, and you face a different, of course,
Yeah, this is actually part of the plan at Atlantic Council with this, the Empower Me, the WIN Fellowship, sorry. They want to have us mentor the groups and be part of an alumni. So that is going to happen, and everyone knows, part of the program, that we're all ready to be a force within all of these women, and we're actually very excited for it because we know how much it affected our lives, and we want it to affect others also. So yeah.
Any other points that you would like to add?
I'd like to mention that when I even started to actually find Atlantic Council, a friend of mine, a female friend of mine, sent me the link, and she was like, "This is perfect for you, apply." And I applied, and that was how I ended up here at the end of the day. And I think just taking out this experience and just talking to my existing network, everyone knows I'm here because I left work for a week and I'm here, and everyone's trying to find me. But this is, to me, this is more important today because this will just catalyst everything out to the next direction. And I think that in itself is talking about something and showcasing that this is something we firmly do believe in. It has a huge impact. We want to share more because we believe it can be a lot bigger than what it currently is. And Atlantic Council is really working hard to make sure that happens.
Well, that's wonderful. My last question, and you can. What I heard from you is that the processes or the establishment of of establishing a company or a business has been made very easy, which is very good, because women, when processes are too long, it are very discouraging to women. So that's a wonderful step forward. And you also mentioned, or some of you mentioned, that the vision, this Vision 2030, is a great booster in terms of people thinking long ahead. When you go back, what other suggestions would you have for policymakers to, have more of you? What would you say to them?
I think for the biotech sector, maybe the biotech hasn't had it as fortunate as other sectors, or with the ladies that are sitting here. So yeah, I do think the biotech community needs to sort of potentially push a little bit harder in Saudi to encourage Saudi scientists to have government grants to increase the R&D, the research and development program of scientific research, essentially scientific discovery, and it's not even just entrepreneurship. You have scientists that have trained overseas that come back with a wealth of knowledge. Leverage them, use them. You can create a community where we are not only not necessarily competing, but collaborating with the global community. So I would say, as far as the biosector goes, there needs to be more support, I think, financially and resource-wise, simply because I think the population is ready for it as far as skill sets goes, and you have the expertise.
So would you step forward and essentially make those proposals to government officials?
So yeah, when I went back to Saudi, I spoke to the Saudi FDA, and I became a strategic consultant to the Saudi FDA because we needed to build the framework. So part of our effort here as women entrepreneurs is not necessarily just our own success, it's the entire community, and it's in Saudi. So if we have to change the landscape, if we have to change the framework, if we have to do something, then that's certainly something that we're going to do as far as policy goes. So yeah, part of the entrepreneurship route is also changing the spectrum, the system.
Any other suggestions to policymakers to make it easier or better?
In Saudi, things are changing very fast, and they are changing in the right direction. And we are very fortunate to be in the right time. But the thing, home-based therapeutic services is still not a thing in Saudi. So we really need, so we are basically going to work very hard to improve the quality of the people with special needs. So, yes.
I think one of the key things that we need to think about is when we are asked for our help, we give it, but we don't usually take the initiative to go to the government and be like, hey, fix this for me or do this for me. We're just too busy we just want to keep our startup alive and we just want to keep it going. But I think there are a lot of new initiatives in place where they're actually taking people from the industry to kind of listen and hear and change and shift. It's going to be an interesting few years, but there are a lot of changes that we've seen in the entrepreneurship sector, in the fintech sector, a lot of regulation changes, a lot of initiatives coming up to support this, but it's still being built. And I think just being a part of that is vital.
What's nice is that they're looking to help and to highlight now women and the vision of 2030. So actually they're looking for that. So it makes it a lot easier because they will have sessions and they do have different activities that will help women speak up more and voice their concerns. So I think they're opening their doors a lot more. So this is much easier for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And I think the entrepreneurship sector, everything is actually growing so fast. So the policy needs to be updated as fast as the things are growing. So maybe we need to have an open dialogue and discuss the changes and what needs to be done. We discussed about women employment and all of that. We have women employment and the percentage is really high. So maybe now the next step is to think of the leadership, the women in the leadership. What can we do? What policy we can put to enforce that? So I would focus more on the leadership part more than just the employment. Yeah.
Well, in closing, I want to thank you very much. You have a very, very big, how should I say, weight on your shoulders, because you will be not only ambassadors vis-a-vis external, but also, you will have definitely a role model. You will be role models for others to follow in your footsteps, but then also advance or shape each sector in which you work, in addition to, of course, making your businesses a success and your enterprises the enterprises of tomorrow. I liked very much your vision that you want to be, the Google and the everything of tomorrow. I want to thank you very much. I learned a lot from this conversation, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
All the best in the future, and I hope to see you in future Atlantic Council
Yes.
sessions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.